Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see about the Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth, and this happened between 14th and 16th century. During this time, they developed a spirit of inquiry, a spirit of freedom and thought and action. No one was willing to accept questioning and the teachings of the others. They themselves wanted to question the teachings, the superstitions, and the customs of the past. All men developed a critical attitude towards medieval institutions. Social, political, and religious ideas were all revolutionized. In short, a great change was taking place in men's attitude towards themselves and also towards the way they looked at the world. The word Renaissance suggests different things to different people. In social history, it was the breaking up of the regime of feudalism and chivalry and the birth of new social conditions. In religion, it led to Reformation and later on to Counter Reformation. In art and literature, there was a recovery of the masterpieces of the ancient world and the revived knowledge of Greek and Latin. In science, they were maritime explorations and the founding of astronomy, anatomy, physiology, and modern medicine. Walter Pater called the Renaissance a complex and many-sided movement. There were many inventions and discoveries during Renaissance. The most important of them was the invention of the printing press. The art of printing was introduced into Europe by John Gutenberg of Germany in 1454, and soon presses were established all over Western and Central Europe. The first Latin Bible was printed in 1455 at Mainz in Germany. The art of printing reached Italy in 1465, Switzerland in 1467, France in 1470, Austria and Netherlands in 1473, and Spain in 1474. The first printing press in England was established in 1476 by William Caxton at Westminster. The press at Oxford was set up in 1478 and the one at St Albans in 1479. The first printing press in London was set up in 1480. All these presses printed mostly only Latin books. Books in English were printed for the first time in 1483. The immediate effect was that books became cheaper and more plentiful. In the Middle Ages, the production of books was a slow process because they had to be produced by copyists. That is, they will write all the books only in hand because there was no printing. And this was done in the monasteries because knowledge was confined to the four walls of monasteries. Only the clergy people knew to read and write. Others were not knowledgeable. And with the advent of printing press, knowledge spread far and wide and fostered a questioning attitude. Another invention of great importance was the mariner's compass, which enabled sailors to undertake longer voyages. And then only they found that the accepted ideas of the world's size and shape were found to be false, because till then they thought that the world is flat. But only when they traveled, they understood that the world is not flat. The invention of the telescope a century later paved way for the beginning of the science of astronomy. The true position of the earth in the solar system was realized, and the former teaching that earth is in the center and the sun and moon were going around it was found false. After the capture of Constantinople, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, by the Turks in 1453, there was a regular exodus of Greek scholars. And these Greek scholars were welcomed in many parts of Europe, and their presence stimulated among Italians, French, and English a new enthusiasm for classical learning and culture. The Renaissance started in Italy. Dante, Petrarch, and Boccaccio prepared the ground. In 1396, the Greek language was taught in Italy by a Greek, Philocalus from Constantinople. After the fall of the eastern capital on May 29, 1453, most of the Greek scholars fled from there and came to Italy. Italian states welcomed them and posed as patrons of literature and art. Study of language and literature and philosophy of Greece became the fashion and enthusiasm of the cultured classes in Italy. Another great Italian writer of the period was Machiavelli. In France, the effect of the Renaissance was seen in the lyric poet of Ronsard, the vigorous prose of Francis Rabelais, and the scholarly essays of Montaigne. In Spain, it was the glory of Cervantes' Don Quixote. In England, the Renaissance was heralded by Geoffrey Chaucer and Selling, who had contacts with Italy. Some years, a good start was given by three Oxford friends, Thomas Liner, William Grocyn, and Hugh Latimer. All of them studied in Italy and lectured on Greek at Oxford University. After them, John Colet founded St. Paul's Grammar School, the first school in England completely devoted to the study of classical literature. The Latin grammar, prepared by William Lilly, the first headmaster of the school, remained the standard textbook for nearly 200 centuries. Other schools like Christ Hospital and the Charter House were started in London. 33 new schools were founded in the reign of Henry VIII, 50 in that of Edward VI, 19 in that of Mary, and 138 in that of Elizabeth. Older schools were also remodeled. Virgil, Ovid, Cicero, Nemesis, and Plutarch were all translated into English. The first part of Chapman's Homer appeared in 1598, and this enabled people like Shakespeare, who knew little Latin and less Greek, to become familiar with classical mythology. The Renaissance in literature may be said to have begun in England with Sir Thomas More. His most famous work, Utopia, which in Greek word meaning nowhere, was written in Latin and first published in 1516. The English translation was published in 1551. The contemporary and friend of More was Erasmus, a Dutchman by birth but settled in England. He was one of the last European writers who wrote in Latin. His most famous work was The Praise of Folly. He also published an edition of the New Testament which contained in parallel columns the original Greek text and a new Latin rendering of his own. Spenser, with his first great epic, Faerie Queene, is the representative poet of the English Renaissance. The genius of Renaissance in England was found in the romantic drama, a good bulk of which was written by Shakespeare, others being Ben Jonson, Francis Bacon, and Christopher Marlowe, the father of English tragedy. Educational ideals underwent great changes. In the Middle Ages, there were two schemes of education, one devised for the clergy and the other to make a perfect and gentle knight. This system became inadequate to meet the demands of the modern age. So, a new educational system had to be devised. Chief among those who conducted educational experiments were Comenius, Rabelais, and Montaigne. The purpose of education as conceived by them was to fashion not the scholar, but the man, bring out all the faculties of harmonious and well-balanced development to prepare for life in the widest sense of the term. With the capture of Constantinople by the Turks, it became necessary for the European nations to find new trade routes to the east. The invention of the mariner's compass gave them courage to undertake maritime exploration. Thus, Columbus discovered the continent of America in 1492. Vasco da Gama reached Calicut on the west coast of India through the Cape of Good Hope in 1498. Magellan set out on his exploration of the Pacific Ocean in 1519. In 1521, he reached the Philippines where he was killed. His lieutenant, Sebastian del Cano, returned Spain in 1522, having completed one of the great feats of history, the first circumnavigation of the world. All through the Middle Ages, the world had accepted that the cosmology taught by Ptolemy of Egypt, according to which the earth was the center of the universe. Towards the middle of the 16th century, Copernicus of Holland discovered that the sun was the center of the universe. Kepler and Galilei revealed the solar system in its main features. The Renaissance in religion consists of two movements, the Reformation and Counter-Reformation. The Reformation started in Germany. Martin Luther, the leader of the movement, translated the Old and New Testaments into German. William Tyndale gave an English rendering of the translation made by Erasmus. These translations of the Bible helped people to read and interpret the text for themselves. The New Reformation movement had a disintegrating influence on the Church of Europe. Then started the Counter-Reformation and the founding of the Society of Jesus by Ignatius of Loyola in 1540. Those who protested against the supremacy of the Pope came to be known as Protestants. In art and literature, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo da Vinci were all all-rounders, poets, painters, and sculptors. As sculpture, Michelangelo's most famous works are the statues of David and Moses, and the Pieta, that is the sculpture of Virgin Mary holding the dead body of Christ on her lap. As a painter, he painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and the great fresco of the Last Judgment on the wall of the same chapel. As a poet, Michelangelo wrote many sonnets and love poems. In his short life, Raphael painted a number of magnificent pictures, the majority of them being the Madonnas. Leonardo da Vinci is famous for the fresco of the Last Supper in the refectory of Maria del Grisi in Milan. In architecture, Roman and Greek styles with columns and round arcs and domes replace the medieval Gothic style with its pointed arcs, soaring pinnacles, and spires. St. Peter's Basilica in Rome is the greatest example of the new style. This style reached England in 17th century through the works of Inigo Jones and Christopher Wren, whose greatest work was the reconstruction of St. Paul's Cathedral in London after the Great Fire of 1666. Wren also built 52 other churches in the city. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box, like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.